Hey, 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 everybody, how you doing? Welcome again to Get Unstuck and Sexy with B. Wright Jones. Being brought to you by Keep Looking Up with B. Wright Jones, LLC. Welcome to the show. It's another Thursday, and I'm so glad that you are with me. Again, welcome. This again is B. Wright Jones, and I'm so glad to be here with you guys on this Thursday. Just wanted to, as I always do, open up with a few words of encouragement. I'm so excited about my special guest today, and just to open up a little bit on that line. I know that there are some that are out there, just like myself, waiting for love to show up in your life. Um, know that it will come. Until then, let's continue to work on ourselves every day, becoming a better version of ourselves each new day. Practice self care. That's so important. Know that it's not selfish in saying no. It's not selfish in making ourselves a priority. And then I want to also remind you just to keep God first, believing that He knows the desires of our heart. He knows what we're in need of. Let's continue to trust Him. Let's continue to lean in and believe that He's working everything out for our good. All right, guys. So, again, welcome to the show. I am so excited today. I have a very special guest that's with me on today, and her name is Tamika Michelle Johnson. And I want to tell you a little bit about her before I bring her on. And um, Tamika is also known as the matchmaking attorney. She's an attorney and a certified matchmaker, recognized early in her early 20s that there seemed to be a lack of qualified suitors for educated, professional, and accomplished women. Since that time, she has been fascinated with understanding the dynamics of relationships, why some worked, why others didn't, and specifically why high achieving, successful women often complained that they had a hard time finding suitable partners, many times ending up single and alone or in situationships with toxic men. Though she was a single mother by the time she reached her mid 20s, Tamika became an attorney a few years later and attained career and financial success in her 30s. Yet, like so many other successful, educated, accomplished, beautiful, professional women that were perfect on paper, she continued to personally experience years of dating and relationship woes. Eventually, Tamika gave up hope that she would ever have any more children at 40 and even doubted if she would ever get married. That is until she completed an amazing and life altering transformation. That transformation completely changed how Tamika approached dating and relationships, learning how to attract quality men to choose from for a long term, healthy relationship. Within 1 year of fully transforming, Tamika married a great guy at 41 years old and subsequently had two more healthy children at 41 and 43 years old. Wow, that is an amazing story. I love it. I love it. Tamika, welcome. Hello.
Hey, Belinda, thank you so much for having me. Just listening to you, girl, you are taking me back already. I'm like, oh, it's been a journey. It
Oh
has
my
been, but I
gosh.
know I am not alone, and
You
so
are
many other
not
women,
alone. Yes,
yes,
you
have
are
gone through
not.
this
Oh,
journey.
I'm telling you, and your story is so amazing. I love it. You were about to give up hope, but then things just changed, and I just love that. So I'm so glad you're here with us today to help some sisters out because we could use some help. And look, before we even get into it, I'm just going to tell you, you know, um, I know you had an amazing challenge that was going on, and I had started off, strong with that challenge, like the dating challenge, and I did sign up on a app for I forget it, I think it was eHarmony, I think it was. And I started off strong, but I wind up just falling off. And I often wonder, we know that we want to find love, we know that we want to be in a relationship, but when do we really decide, get to the point where we want to make some things a priority in our life? Like for me, I started off strong, but then I got so engrossed again with my work that I just fell off. And I'm like, okay, there comes a time when you got to do something different. You got to stick with it so you can see some changes or things in your life. So help us out. You know, I love this title, Transforming from Successful and Single to Marvelous and Married. Yes, I have my business going on, some things, but at the end of the day, I'm still single, actually divorced, but I want to date again. I want to meet, a good guy. Um, what can you share? What can you tell us today? Help me out.
Yes, of course. I know we briefly spoke about that, and what
Mhm,
you did, that's just also common because once we decide, okay, like I know I have to take the step if I want to be intentional about dating, finding a partner, and all that. And then we get on
mhm.
these apps and it is frustrating. And so we don't stick with it.
Yeah.
And just like,
Yep.
so many other things, kind of let it go and it's no longer a priority. But the thing that I stress to women is you have to be intentional about finding love, finding the right person. And just like we've been intentional about getting our education, we've been intentional about growing our businesses, we've been intentional about investments, finances. You have to be intentional about dating and relationships as well and not just leave it up
Mm,
to luck. You didn't
yeah.
become successful by luck.
Right.
And it is a total journey for me. There's as far as my transformation, is the emotional side of it, and there was a spiritual side of it as
Mhm.
well. So yeah, let me just kind of take you through what I went through and what my transformation looked like,
Yes.
because it was a 10-year process. At the completion of it, things happened quickly, but it was a process. So
Okay.
yeah, as you were saying, yeah, in my early 20s, after I graduated from college, I took off 2 years before I went to law school. I always wanted to be an attorney.
Mhm.
I always knew what my life, I thought I knew what my life was going to look like. I just knew I was going to be an attorney. I was going to get married and I was going to have kids. And I was going to have it in that order. And it was going to happen in my 20s. But it
Wow.
didn't. It didn't. So I ended up being a single mother at 25. That was the
Mhm.
first thing. So, what was number three was now number one.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
I didn't let that define me. And so, yeah, I finished law school, became an attorney. But before I had my daughter, after college, before law school, I was quote unquote, I was adulting. That's the term these kids use these days. It was adulting.
Uh-huh.
And I was dating. And I just realized just the type of men that I was meeting and going out with, they just did not look good at all. And so I
Mm.
actually started the framework then, right before I went to law school, of creating a dating service. But I also
Mhm.
held out hope, thinking, okay, well, at the same time, I am not where I am going to be professionally. Because at this point, I hadn't even gone to law school. I was holding out, well, thinking, okay, well, once I become an attorney, eligible bachelors will just be at my fingertips and it'll be so much easier.
Right.
I was thinking that. So, I ended up, I graduated law school and then I started dating again. And I was like, oh, it's the same. Like it's still, and not only is it
Wow.
the same, it's worse because now, it's really hard to find men who are on a similar education level as
Mhm.
me and, financially where I'm going. So it was harder. It never
Mhm.
occurred to me that the more successful we become, and especially as women of color, the more
Mhm.
successful we become, the harder it is to find compatible partners.
Mhm.
Um, and it just blew my mind because, as I say, like we're like perfect on paper. We're like,
Mhm.
we focus on our education, got good jobs, going to church or Christians, and we deserve the best. Like we literally are the cream of the crop, but
Mhm.
there's not so much, there's not a lot of options at that level. And that's
Right.
where we want to stay. And then we get focused on and we're told, don't settle, don't settle, don't settle.
Mhm.
I think one of the things is we kind of confuse the things that we deserve and the things that we desire.
Mhm.
And we look at the things that we desire, if we don't get those, as settling,
Mhm.
and which I don't. That's a whole nother topic in and of itself. But
Mhm.
after I became licensed, or shortly I became licensed as an attorney, I had an epiphany. And had always been dating, and people would always say to me, like, how are you still single? Like you're smart, you're
Mm.
attractive, you're
Mhm.
witty, like all that stuff. We probably have all
Mhm.
heard it. And
Yep.
we're always like, yeah, why am I still single? Like, I don't get it
Mhm.
either. Like, can you tell me? So I was traveling at the time and I was in a hotel room, and I was actually back in Connecticut where I'm originally from. Um, and I was in a room. It was almost like everything just kind of came together. Like I was meant to be there.
Mhm.
And it was like God revealed to me like why I was not emotionally connecting with men. And it
Mhm.
was it was a result of how I was raised, and just being told that men are logical, women are emotional. So because women are emotional, their decisions aren't as reliable as men. Like that's what I was taught repeatedly
Mm.
growing up. And so I suppressed my emotions. And so I was
Mhm.
not emotionally connecting with men in relationships. And I realized that day. And when I realized it, I was like, wow, like this is amazing.
Mhm.
And shortly after that, I was in a relationship because it was like that was my
Wow.
blockage. And so many people, we have different blockages, so many things that have affected us in our childhood, in our upbringing, in the relationships that we saw, that we don't even
Yes.
realize the impact that it has on us.
Wow.
So to me, that was amazing, and to be able to correct that, right? So now, like, I'm
Yes.
trying to, like, it's conscious, a conscious thing, but I was still able to recognize what the issue was and to be more open emotionally. And again, I was in a relationship shortly after that. The
Wow.
problem was, I was in a relationship with the wrong person. I
Mm.
was so excited that I had, learned this, right, about me,
Mhm.
and I make that change.
Mhm.
And I ended up being in a relationship that was not the healthiest of relationships, but I
Mhm.
stuck with it and I was in it for 10 years. All my
Mm.
30s. I just turned 30, all my good baby making years, what I say to people. I always wanted to have more kids, but I was like, I'm not doing it as a single parent again. Like, this is not going to happen.
Right.
So, um, so my partner at the time, he had three kids coming in. He had just gotten out of a marriage. I had my
Okay.
daughter. They were all about the same age, and
Mhm.
I spent 10 years trying to convince him to have more, and he spent 10 years trying to convince me not to want to have more. So
Oh my goodness.
I don't know who
Wow.
won. I don't know who lost, but it was 10 years. It was 9.5 years too long to be in that
Wow.
relationship, but the thing was, again, at this point, I'm in my career, I'm building, and the first time that there is something inappropriate, I didn't
Mhm.
stop and leave. Like I acted like I was, but I
Mhm.
didn't. And I stayed with it because now I'm getting to the point where I see other women going through the same thing. I see beautiful women, intelligent women, successful women, them complaining about being alone, being single, there's no good men. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to hold on to this one and I'm just going
Mhm.
to, try to change him. And
Mhm.
and I think also because so many of us, and I work with so many women who are, successful, and they're used to succeeding, and they're used to tackling and overcoming any obstacle that they have. that they they bring that mentality to relationships.
Mhm.
So, and we don't want to fail. We don't want to
Mhm.
admit failure. I didn't
Mhm.
want to admit failure. 2 years in, nope, I'm gonna make this work. I'm gonna make it
Yeah.
work. 5 years in, nope, I spent all this time. This is going to
Wow.
work. Just stubborn,
Yep.
just
I hear
stubborn.
you.
And
Uh,
so 10 years goes by quick.
Yep.
But the relationship was so taxing on me that I was really stressed. There
Mm.
was cheating, there was lying, there was silent phones, and I knew
Mm.
better. I
Yeah.
knew better, but I
Yeah.
was scared to be alone.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
fear of being alone is it, it will take over you,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it'll paralyze you. And you don't want
Yep.
to admit it, but that was
Mhm.
my issue. I was scared of being alone. I was like, the older I get, the
Mm.
harder it's going to be. But
Wow.
I definitely in that relationship, I went through a depression. I was stressed. My hair was falling out. I couldn't sleep. My back was hurting. I was
Mm.
breaking out. It just was not healthy. And
Yeah.
even on the outside to people, everything looked fine. Everything looked
Yeah.
good.
Mhm.
People think, things are perfect, but no, I was hurting. I was hurting on the
Mm.
inside. And I,
Yeah.
realized that I was in a depression. And I had to get out of it. And
Yeah.
I did, but I was still there for several more years. And it finally got to
Wow.
a point where I saw that my daughter, she was seeing the back and forth in this relationship, the on again, the off again. And I
Mhm.
saw how it was affecting her. I saw what she was seeing for a
Mhm.
relationship. And that was just hurting me so bad. So I finally had to make the decision like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to be alone and I just need to be at peace. Because I just was not at peace. I felt like I literally couldn't breathe.
Wow.
um, my chest was just full and I couldn't do it
Mm.
anymore. And for that purpose,
Wow.
for me and then for my daughter, because she deserves so much better than
Yeah.
that. And so I accepted maybe I'll be alone for the rest of my life. Let me just start planning what my life will look like professionally in other areas,
Mhm.
this point forward. And so I left that relationship, and again, I was just full of peace. um
Wow.
I
That's
was, it was sad, but yeah, definitely full of peace.
wow. So that's what made you move. You saw how it was affecting your daughter and you knew it wasn't good. So you made that decision. That was very brave. That was the first step in changing your life. So and I know that you met someone else after that you eventually married, correct?
So I
Is that
actually met my now husband when my daughter was like 1. So I had known him for like 14
Oh.
years.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we just didn't like seriously date. We were not in a committed relationship. When I met him, I literally was going back to law school. I was leaving the state, to finish law school in Louisiana. And so I wasn't asking for a relationship at that point. It was just kind of like, oh, well, you seem like a good guy. When I come back to Atlanta, which is where I'm from, we'll go out, we'll hang
Uh,
out or what have you. And that's what we
Okay.
did. So
Oh.
admittedly, between my on again and off again relationship in that 10 years, if it was off, I would contact him. So he was always there, but then I'd go back to my ex. So I was playing with fire,
Okay.
but we we ended up actually we reconnected, and I tell you, it
Yeah.
was a divine intervention because I was in
Wow.
the middle of my day working in between appointments, stopped at a plaza to do some shopping, and he was in the same plaza walking out getting something to eat, and I almost hit him with my car. And this
What?
man just walked in front of my car. I was like, this dude is about to get hit.
Oh my
And then I
gosh.
slam on my brakes, right? I slam on my brakes and I looked and I'm like, Daryl?
And it was him.
And
Oh,
and it was him. And we reconnected from
wow.
there. And yeah, so initially
Wow.
we still weren't in a relationship. We were just kind of casually dating.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe 8 months later after that, and I wasn't ready to be in a relationship at that point anyway, because I just gotten out of my other relationship. But
Right.
maybe like 9 months later, 8, 9 months later, we had the discussion of actually dating exclusively. And that was
Okay.
it pretty much. So
Wow, that
w-
was it. Okay. Wow, I love that story. I love that. So, and you've been married now. I'm sorry. How long have you been married now?
We just celebrated our 4th year anniversary. So four
Oh,
years.
nice. That's nice. That's nice. I love that. So, just thinking about your story, there comes a time when we have to make a decision, especially when we see things really aren't going anywhere, when we see things are toxic, when things aren't good for us, that we have to make that decision, to let go. Many times we'll try to hold on to things that aren't good for us, missing out on God's best for us. So I had to finally, realize that myself in my life because, I was married for 9 years, in a toxic relationship, and I had to eventually let go. And again, I was afraid of being alone. Um, didn't really, want to start over again, but realizing that it wasn't healthy, it wasn't good for me, and I had to make that decision. So, we've been apart, I've been divorced now since August of 2020. So, and I'm telling you, it's just like I can breathe, I was just holding on to some things, trying to hold on to a relationship that just was not good. So, when you, now that I'm ready, when you get to that point, when you're ready. You were saying earlier about uh that blockage. There was a blockage. Um, and we don't even realize it at times. Can you help us in that area? Give a suggestion of really realizing or recognizing if there's a blockage there, that could be from our early childhood. Something could be blocking, and keeping us from moving forward in a healthy relationship. Is there something you can share with us on today regarding that?
Yeah, so I am a huge fan of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it just takes, therapy, sometimes coaching, just to figure out what is perhaps preventing you from being successful in the relationships, connecting
Mm-hmm.
with people.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge for me. I've always been in tune with my emotions and
Mm-hmm.
feelings, and if it doesn't feel right, I try to figure it out. And so
Mm-hmm.
I can usually pinpoint it. So then there's the point where you have to actually make the change, which is the hardest part. But
Mm-hmm.
figuring out what is possibly stopping you, that's a good spot, a good good
Mm-hmm.
good time to go to therapy, and work
Mm.
those things out. So,
Okay.
or coach, or someone who is, a relationship coach or a dating coach, that kind of thing. Just so you can delve into your relationship history, your past, and your upbringing to see how
Mm-hmm.
that's affecting you now. So, um,
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna go back a little bit as well, because I say, when I met my husband, kind of that was it. Well, there was no one else after him, but it wasn't necessarily it, because for the first 6 months of that relationship, there still was something that was not right,
Okay.
that I wasn't connected with fully, and I had to understand what that was. And so that's part of my spiritual transformation, because
Mm-hmm.
one, and I know so many women have done this. We could be in relationships, and it could be with a man or a person who does not truly appreciate us, and they
Mm-hmm.
are not
Mm-hmm.
acting as if they are in a relationship. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of get hurt in that relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and you stay in it. So for me, I never processed my 10-year relationship. And I had this demeanor, like so many women have, like, I'm this strong woman, I can get over it. I'm just gonna keep it pushing, keep it moving. And that's what I did. So when I got in a relationship with my now husband, I hadn't fully processed it. So um previously in my old relationship, I would pray. Like I would pray to God, like Lord, just make him see that I'm a good woman. Make
Mm-hmm.
him like realize that I have all these things, that I will help him, I'll be loyal and all this. Like that was my prayer. But with
Mm-hmm.
my husband, 6 months in, it was a Sunday afternoon. I'll never forget. It was a Sunday afternoon. I was in the bathroom. I just kind of like broke down. And I didn't know why. And it just these feelings just started coming to me. And I realized, oh my goodness, like I'm still like having these emotions from my past relationship. So I was just like, God, please just remove him from my heart. And the next prayer was, and show me how to be the wife that my husband needs me to be, my future husband needs me to be. And so I feel like my prayer was different. Before
Okay.
it was, you know, let him see what a good woman I am. Now it was, well,
Mm-hmm.
what do I need to do for him
Mm-hmm.
to know that? How do I need to show up to be a wife for him? And when that
Mm-hmm.
happened, um, it was another instance of just being overwhelmed with the greatest sense of peace that I've ever had. I, gotten the
Wow.
past relationship out, I processed that out, and now I'm fully committed to my husband. And the interesting
Mm.
thing is, like, I thought I was fine throughout that whole relationship with my now husband, but he even tells me after that day, he noticed there was something different about me. He noticed I was more affectionate, and our bond was a little closer, a little tighter, a little stronger.
Wow.
Also, truth be told, we had talked at this point. I was 40. We had talked about kids. I was like, listen, I'm 40. I don't know what the chances of me having children are. I don't know. I hear the same statistics that every other woman hears after
Mm-hmm.
35, like you're almost barren. And so we had the discussion. So, we decided kind of early on that, we weren't going to try necessarily, but we weren't going to prevent it either. And so the
Right.
reality is I could have gotten pregnant like that whole time, but I didn't. But when I had that sense of peace that came over me, and I
Uh-huh.
had that breakdown moment, I was pregnant within a month. So it was
Wow.
just, yeah, it was just a
That's
testament
awesome.
of, again, that stress, that
Yeah.
emotional baggage that I was holding on to.
Mm-hmm.
It was binding my body. It was preventing me from conceiving. And so all those things just play, different role on you. So
Something.
that's
Wow.
part of my spiritual transformation in there. I started the emotional part 10 years prior, but
Oh,
it was
wow.
just different at this
Oh,
point.
wow. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing how, things like that can be in our lives, and could be, blocking some things from really taking and transpiring in our lives and happening. Um, and then we just have that moment, where things just change. So that's amazing. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Um, I wanted to also talk a little bit about rethinking and redefining your life after 40, personally and professionally. And this is big for me because, I know a lot of times um, we're trying to please everybody else. People, have expectations, looking for us to do certain things. We're trying to live our lives to please other people, and we put our, dreams and different things on hold many times. But there comes a point in our life where, we need to do that transformation. What's making me happy? What do I really want to do in my life at this point? And really seeking my happiness and the desires of my heart. Let's talk about that. You want to share?
Sure. Yeah. So listen, 40
Mm-hmm.
for women
Mm-hmm.
is a tough age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially
Mm-hmm.
if you're approaching 40 and you've not
Mm-hmm.
achieved some of the things that you wanted to. Again, so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of, the women that I work with, a lot of people I work with, they have achieved things professionally, but personally
Mm-hmm.
they may not have achieved everything, marriage and
Mm-hmm.
kids and all that. So 40 is tough, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we're too young to be old and too old to be young. And like you
Right?
said, we focus on other things. We focus, if we have kids, we focus on our kids, we focus on, maybe our businesses,
Mm-hmm.
parents and friends, just doing everything, people pleasing. And
Right.
40 for a lot of people is kind of like, okay, that's it. I've got to make a change and I've
Mm-hmm.
got to focus on me. And that's what a lot of us do. We kind of like, okay, we start prioritizing ourselves at
Mm-hmm.
40. And it may take,
Mm-hmm.
some years to actually start doing it
Mm-hmm.
naturally or
Mm-hmm.
consistently, but we start realizing that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, again, 40 was amazing for me because at 41 I got married. Later on that year, 41, I had a baby that I thought I'd never be able to have. 2 years
Wow.
later, I had another baby, all
Oh my God.
naturally conceived.
Yes.
And you hear
Yes.
that these things can't happen. I thought I accepted a life of being single and no more children.
Oh my goodness.
So
That is amazing.
yeah, so 40
Yes.
was great. And so I with my husband, we are really kind of partners. We're like coaches and cheerleaders. We're cheerleaders, sorry, should I say? We're cheerleaders for one another. Um,
Amen.
and so we've been partners, and definitely he was into personalities and relationships. And so we just kind of came up with some things that I wanted to pursue, he wanted to pursue, and we kind of combined some of those things. And
Mm-hmm.
it definitely has worked. We've complemented one another. And so for me, as far as, personally, I got married and had the kids, but professionally, I was looking at this point, I've been an attorney for over 10 years now. I
Mm-hmm.
could kind of do
Mm-hmm.
what I'm doing. I could do it in my sleep. And that's where
Mm-hmm.
you are a lot of times at 40. You've been doing something for so long, that's all you know. You've become really, really comfortable and you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to try anything different. You're
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of like, okay, it's gonna take too long. Like it took me, so many years to reach this point. If I start to do something different, it's gonna take me that amount of years. But I, absolutely encourage women to pursue whatever their heart's desire is, professionally as
Yes.
well, because I still practice, but I'm not a litigator. I'm transactional. I do estate planning, wills and trusts and deeds and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I always keep that, but like I said, this desire to get involved in relationships
Mm-hmm.
and coaching a little bit and becoming a matchmaker and having a dating agency, a matchmaking agency, like I was kind of going back and forth. It was really like, what will people think of me? They're like, you're an attorney.
Really?
How are you going to relationships? Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And so yeah, I don't normally have imposter syndrome, but I definitely did when I started thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it was my passion, it was my desire. And I
Mm-hmm.
loved doing it. And then I just started surrounding myself around people who, who were bosses and who were pursuing
Mm-hmm.
the things that they wanted to pursue in life. And you just have to surround yourself with a different type of
Yes.
energy.
Yes.
And yeah. So yeah,
It
that's
makes
that's what
all
I
the
had to do.
difference. Okay. Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
true. Surrounding yourself around people, that have vision, that can, relate to you, that, will also be a cheerleader for you, and not, shooting you down, saying, girl, what you trying to do that for? You need people that's going to support you, encourage you, inspire you. So yeah, and that they're about, business too. So that is so true. That is so true. Because sometimes people will try to talk us out of things, because they don't see the vision that we see, you know. But that's great when you can surround yourself around people, that can support your vision. We both can support each other. So that's awesome. That's awesome. And
Yeah. And then we're multi-talented women, right? We don't
yes,
we
we don't
we
do
don't
just
just
one
have to
thing.
do just one thing, right? And
That's
so
the
when you come
truth.
across people like when I've been come
Yes.
across, attorneys who, are
Mm-hmm.
doing other things. I was like, yes, because yeah,
Yes.
I can't just do one thing. Like I feel like I have too much in me just
Yes.
to do one thing. And we can. Like I think
That's
last
right.
year at one point I changed my profile picture on social media that said actually I can. So it
Oh,
was more of an a testament like yes, I can be an attorney. Yes, I can be a
yes.
matchmaker. And I can do them both well. And that's what I did.
Yes.
It just took that attitude and that shift like actually yeah, I can. So that's
Yes.
what
Yes.
it's been for me. We have been blessed with different gifts, so we should
That's
use them.
so true. I love that. And I think about, my tagline, get unstuck and sexy, sexy, which is the acronym, self-confidence, excitement, extra, and yes, I can. So right there, we have to, think about that. There's so many things that we have gifts and talents. And a lot of times it's funny though, because we're concerned about what other people will think. Sometimes we um, we don't want to shine. We don't want to come out, really and use our gifts and talents. And people say, "Oh, don't take all that," or different things. But we have to remember that we have purpose. We have to remember that there are people that are waiting for us to walk in our purpose. There are people that are waiting for us to do that very thing that's in our heart to do. So I am so glad that you're doing your thing, and you're helping other people and you're making a difference. And that's what it's about. And if we just step up and step out and do that and stop allowing um, fear or other things to keep us hidden, we could do anything, most definitely. Yes, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I
Yes.
I have to, definitely say, even though there's some reluctancies when you first start anything, because you're just not sure, even though you have the passion for it, you're not sure if other people will. But
Mm-hmm.
once I started, doing the matchmaking, I always thought it was just going to be an issue with not having enough men who were available or quality men. And that's not
Mm-hmm.
been my experience at all. I was always like, there's always going to be women because, that's my demographic. I get that. But there are
Mm-hmm.
both men and women who are doing extremely well professionally and
Mm-hmm.
financially.
Mm-hmm.
They're all looking for one another. And so it's
Yes.
not the lack of desire of men to be in relationships, to be in healthy relationships. There's a disconnect where we're just not connecting, and the approach needs to be a little bit
Mm-hmm.
different. So,
Right. Yeah.
it's a little challenging, I think, because as women, as Black women, we
Mm-hmm.
have evolved way
Mm-hmm.
quicker than any other demographic in this
Mm-hmm.
country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yes.
everyone has not evolved as quickly as us. So
Right.
now, we're in boardrooms, we're CEOs, we're making six,
Yes.
seven figures, and
Yes.
men have not adjusted to that as quickly as women have, because
Mm-hmm.
they're just taught to be
Mm-hmm.
providers and protectors, and you take away the providing part, some men are lost. And
Yeah.
so there's the approach, which I focus on a lot with women, when you're
Okay.
approaching your relations, or possible relationships with men. Um,
Okay.
we have to check our our leading role at the door sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Um, just kind of turn it down a notch. Now I tell people, like, turn it down, not to
Okay.
zero. You don't have to be a damsel in distress, but turn it
Right.
down to like 6 or 7, right?
Okay.
And in the next couple of weeks, I'll be, talking about next week. I'll be doing a live. We'll be talking about the roles of men and women.
Mm-hmm.
Have they changed? Because we become successful, have those traditional roles changed? Should
Mm-hmm.
they change? Do we want them to change? Because there's so many women who are successful and they're broken the mold, right? And then
Yeah.
they're like, "Well, I want a traditional man." But you can't have a
Mm.
traditional man if you're not traditional. Like, you're an
Right?
extraordinary woman. You can't
Yeah.
have traditional.
Isn't
But it
that
doesn't
something?
mean that you can't be in a healthy relationship with a quality partner. It just means you
Right.
have to kind of change your approach to it. There's a way around it and to it, but
Yeah.
just minor adjustments in how we approach it. But yeah, but kind of rethinking. Okay, well, I'm not traditional. How can I, ask someone to be a traditional man and I'm not? Right.
Right.
So you
Exactly.
have to look at who you're dating, expand your dating pool. Be open to different races. Be open to
Mm-hmm.
long distance dating. Because here's the thing.
Mm. Okay.
We a
Okay.
lot of times when we meet men, we get consumed and they can be a little
Mm-hmm.
distracting. And
Yeah.
so when you have that distance, you still can do you and you can take your time and let that relationship grow and mature naturally instead of
Right.
forcing it. Because when we're here,
That's
like when
true.
we're in the same city and we're still dating, we're kind of like, okay, it's been like 2 weeks, it's been like a month. What are we doing here? What's going on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
And so we have to not do that.
Right.
But yeah,
Exactly.
but definitely be open. Not saying exclusively date people, in other cities, other states, but let that be an
Mhm.
option. Um,
Okay.
so that's one thing. Also have a goal. Part of my thing is I talk about the business of dating.
Mm-hmm.
Have a goal of how many dates that you want to go on. And that was part of the challenge that we did. How many dates do you want to go on in a month? How many days do
Yeah.
you want to go on in a week? And you're going to have to start with a number. So I say, some people say, some dating coaches say, get online every day and approach a few people. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I wouldn't do it every day. I have things to do, but but maybe once a week, I'll dedicate
Right.
about an hour or so, and I'll reach
Okay.
out to
Yeah.
25 people. And
Okay.
like each day, some people may respond, some people won't. It'll probably be
Mm-hmm.
like 2 or 3 at the end of the day that you actually end up connecting with, either on the phone or
Mm-hmm.
in person. And you keep
Okay.
on doing that. You don't do it
Okay.
just for a week. You do it the next week, and the next week, the next week, and the next week. And just like,
Yeah.
okay, so if people are in business, they know marketing, any marketing thing that you take on, anything new in marketing, you give it 6 months to see if it works.
Mm-hmm.
What works, what doesn't work. Do the same
Right.
thing with dating. Just be consistent, be intentional. Just again,
There
like
you
we were
go.
with everything else in our life. So
Yes.
also, and I know there's, I work with a lot of Christian women. And
Mm-hmm.
there's like two thoughts. Many men and women are like, well, when God has the person for me, he'll send that person to me. And it'll just
Mm-hmm.
happen. I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily subscribe to that because again, I feel like God didn't bless your business because you did nothing. You still worked on it, and
Right.
he opened up doors and he blessed you in other ways, but you had to work at that. You had to
Mm-hmm.
work and succeed, and then it was still blessed, with your labor
Mm-hmm.
as well. And so the same thing with dating and relationships. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
you do definitely have to work on you and make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're showing up correctly, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to do work. You definitely have to do work.
Right.
So
Right.
those
I
are
like that.
those are a
That's
few of
good.
those things.
That's
Mhm.
good. That's good. Thank you so much for sharing that. If you could share one thing to someone out there that's still listening and are still a little skeptical about, getting out there and trying to, meet someone, if there's one other thing that you could share just to encourage them, um, so they could see something possibly different change in their life, what would you say? What would you say to them?
One, I would say, there is a person out there for you, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And just be open. Be open to just different possibilities. And be consistent. My thing, I always go back, just be intentional about it because I don't want anyone to experience or go through what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
There's 10 years of my life that I can't get back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you don't want to settle in an unhealthy relationship, and
Mm-hmm.
know that you are destined for so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Get back out there. The more
Mm-hmm.
you date, the better you get. It's like
Mm-hmm.
anything else. And so you
Right.
will be a little nervous or apprehensive in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
putting yourself out there, rejection. That's part of
Mm-hmm.
life. That's
Yeah.
part of everything. And so we've got to go through that. It's just like in sales, you're going to get way more no's than you get yeses. but you
You
just
got
have
that
to know
right.
that that right.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That's the truth.
But that's not the
Yes.
end.
That's true.
And just, approach it like a business in a way, so to speak.
Yeah. I like that.
Know
Yeah.
that the rejection is there, and you have to try some different things. I talk
Yeah.
about having a dating card, and
Mm-hmm.
you probably heard about it already, but it's
Yeah.
like, instead of giving someone that you meet a business card, which has all your information and where you work, because I believe there are stalkers out there. So you get
Yeah.
a dating card with just either your first name or your initials or a
Mm-hmm.
nickname or something like that. And you get like a virtual number, a cute little picture with no mask on it. And if you come across someone, or you
Yeah.
spark up a conversation with someone, give them this card,
I
and
like
have
that.
them, give you a call, or what have you. Check for rings and ring fingers and all that, even though that's not an absolute. But you can do things like that. So the
Okay.
person who's kind of like, man, I don't want to get back out there. I know, I get it. Is daunting to think
Yeah.
about it. And I speak to women almost every day now,
Mm-hmm.
who are just kind of like it's crazy out here.
Yeah.
And they're just not sure where to go. And you don't want to put the time into it. If
Yeah.
if I could, if it were possible, I would tell women, if they are at a certain level financially and they could spare the time off, take like a month
Mm-hmm.
off, or take like
Yeah.
3 months off, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, and work on you without the distraction of work. Because if you
Yeah.
really do care about connecting with someone, you are going to have to put that work into it. If you
Mm-hmm.
can take some time off, do that. um
Mm-hmm.
and work on, dating, and just spoiling you and
Mm-hmm.
dating. And don't just
I
date one
love that.
person. The first person that's kind of like that you like, don't just stop there.
Yeah.
Date other
Yeah.
people. Continue meeting other people. Continue. That way
Mm-hmm.
there's no pressure. And then they can
Mm-hmm.
show you what they have to offer. And don't rush it.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
a little bit, competition does encourage commitment sometimes. So
Oh, there you go. Yes.
if
Yes.
a
I
man
like
knows
that.
that you're dating other people, he might be like, you
Uh-huh.
know what? She might meet someone better. She might leave. Let me step my game up and do that.
Uh-huh. That's so true. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. Listen, before closing, Tamika, I want you to share how people can connect with you on social media, your websites. Share your information, please.
Sure. So you can go to the website, which is myplatinumconnections.com. You can find me on Instagram at platinum_connection. You can also find the group on Facebook at Platinum Connections. So just type in Platinum Connections, you can find me somewhere, whether it's in LinkedIn, Facebook, or online.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. This was so good. I so enjoyed this time with you on today. I'm telling you, don't give up hope out there. There is love out there. Like Tamika was saying, we got to, put in the work, and just don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. So, again, thank you for joining on today. So glad that you guys were with me here. And just remember always to keep looking up. Don't give up hope. Know that things are working out for our good. Keep the faith and remember to get unstuck and sexy. Again, sexy is the acronym for self confidence, excitement, extra, and yes, I can. Be blessed, guys. Thanks for joining us. Take care.